It's a concept that even the ancient Greeks understood and recommended, a phrase that says we should do everything in moderation. Dates back all the way to Greece in the 6th century BC. But charting that middle path amid all the temptations we face remains a daily challenge for so many of us. And it's the subject of a fascinating new book by author Michael Easter, The Scarcity Brain. 200, look at that.
There's a lesson.
I'm gonna win this one.
Inside the Center for Gaming Innovation at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
That is it.
Look at that, 2750.
Throw a cowboy boot, bam. That's a good one.
Where science journalist Michael Easter came to learn about the nature of gambling.
So what does this tell us about ourselves?
This tells us that we love random rewards. They capture our attention. So if you know you'll get something of value, you don't know when, you don't know how big it's gonna be, you will pay attention to that.
Experts here create and test new high-tech casino games for a host of companies. And that was key in research for Easter's book, Scarcity Brain.
I suppose no better laboratory than Vegas to study human behavior.
No, there isn't. You see people from all different backgrounds, but they're all here for the same reason. To have fun, to have a good time, and that usually involves doing things to excess.
That excess, Easter says, is driven by what he calls the scarcity loop.
What is the scarcity loop?
It is a behavior loop that pushes us to repeat behaviors quickly that can be fun in the short term but hurtful in the long term. So it's got three parts. It's got opportunity, it's got unpredictable rewards, and it's got quick repeatability. So opportunity, you have an opportunity to get something that enhances your life, gives you something of value. 2, unpredictable rewards.
The scarcity loop has been ingrained in our brains since the beginning of man, when seeking and consuming meant staying alive.
Our tendency to try and always acquire more, whether it's food, stuff, information, status, whatever it might be, that is an ancient drive. And so it's not necessarily your fault that you sort of overdo how those behaviors are expressed, but it is your problem to solve.
A difficult problem to solve in our world of evolving technology, where services and apps purposely use scarcity cues.
It's everywhere. It's in social media. It's being put into finance apps, personal finance apps. It's what makes dating apps work. It's being put into sports betting applications, for example. It's in so many different places in our life, and it's unparalleled at taking our time and attention, I think.
We see things like points, leaderboards, and prompts to increase our engagement.
That gamification has captured the attention of Gary Gensler.
Underpinning many of these features is predictive data analytics. This allows companies to analyze the success of individual prompts and to increase activity.
He's the chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Following the wrong prompt on a trading app, though, could have a substantial effect on a saver's financial position. Many of these features encourage investors to trade more.
In the scarcity loop, would you consider that we lose our ability to be content and happy?
Yeah, I think that you can get a short-term, fleeting hit of something that feels like happiness from a purchase, from getting a handful of likes on Twitter or Instagram or whatever your social media drug of choice might be, from the next drink, from different, hypercaloric foods. But ultimately, it goes away pretty quick. And then naturally, we as humans, we want the next one.
Easter traveled around the world to answer this question: how do we stop wanting more?
First is just by becoming aware of it. The second part is that you can change or remove any of the three parts. So you can take away the opportunity or change it. It's like if your cell phone is your problem, well, even just keeping your cell phone in the other room, as simple as that sounds, that barrier to entry of time and the ability to not just pull it out like you're a gunslinger will tend to lessen the time you spend.
The third step is about our environment and why we escape into the scarcity loop in the first place. A study of pigeons found that the birds will choose to gamble for a jackpot they probably won't win instead of playing a more predictable game, especially if they're isolated or bored.
When the scientists put them in a an environment that was more like an environment they'd live in the wild. So they're having to work to build a nest. They're hanging out with other pigeons. They're getting exercise and exposure, and they're living like a wild pigeon life. And then he puts them back in the game and says, okay, pigeons, pick a game. They start to pick the one that is predictable and ends up getting them more food. So they start to make optimal choices.
Easter says humans can learn from these studies and thereby increase their happiness.
Having to put in effort, do sort of challenging things, time in nature, physical activity, and when we start to fall below what we need, we start to look for stimulation in other ways.
I'm gonna delete the app. I haven't figured out why I'm using it. I'm bored, probably.
Well, I think too, being okay with being bored is fine. So boredom is this evolutionary discomfort that basically tells you whatever you're doing with your time right now, the return on your time invested is worn thin. But now today, when we feel that discomfort of boredom, that evolutionary cue, we have easy, effortless escapes from it. We can just, boom, Candy Crush. Boom, I'm gonna check my email for the 99th time today. Boom, did I get one more like on Instagram or whatever it is? I think that when we look back, we often regret these behaviors.
Hacking the scarcity loop can be as easy as stepping outside.
It could be something you do in nature that gives you big rewards, like fishing. You could gamify fitness in a way, and that would give you a benefit over the long term, right? You go to the gym, you're like, I'm gonna do this exercise every time I go to the gym, and I don't know if the number will go up or down. I want it to go up, but I'm not sure what's gonna happen. So then you go and you test yourself and you go, oh, it went up, this is exciting.
And for a lot of us, staying in the moment might just be the cure to our need for more.
I think in the grand scheme of time and space, although we still have many problems societally to solve, when you look back on how far we've come in the last 300 years, I mean, it's amazing to be alive, like full stop amazing. And we often don't stop and appreciate that. And so appreciating that, I think, can give you gratitude, and that really can enhance your life in the moment.
Was this not the perfect assignment for someone?
Did you learn something?
I learned so much. I mean, just first of all, who knew about pigeons? You know,
I love that pigeons are gamblers. They're the Vegas of the natural world.
Right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
But I learned like just the awareness that why you're doing it just kind of just piqued my ability to say, okay, let me take the opportunity away from me.
Okay.
You know, those are the keys. Now, I did delete the app. The question is, did I go back
and put it back on? Yeah. Or find a different one to use.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting that he points out it's okay to be bored.
Yeah.
That was another
That's
key.
hard.
That's when
That
you
is
find
tough.
things.